Hey guys, Dave here with a look at King of Fighters 14 on the PC. The game recently came out on Steam and I thought now was the perfect time to take a look and see how well the PlayStation 4 Pro version holds up against this PC release at 4K. Now on the PC it's possible to run King of Fighters 14 at native 4K 60 frames per second and the experience is awesome. The extra pixel count really brings out additional definition in the image, particularly with regards to sharpness and clarity, from everything from polygon edges down to fine texture details and even the shader work. I think it really looks quite nice, even if not everyone will be particularly fond of the art style SNK are going for here. In terms of PC specifics, well, there's not too much to really discuss here in terms of graphical options. For example, you have the ability to turn on and off various effects such as anti-aliasing, shadows and depth of field, but there's no quality presets. You can't reduce quality. The effects are either there or they're not. This means that we're mostly looking at console level visuals of graphical quality then, rather than an upgrade that goes beyond what PS4 Pro delivers. And yes, for the most part the two share the same visual feature set and core artwork, with key elements such as shadow resolution, texture quality and post-processing appearing identical across both versions. That said, some visual features are surprisingly reduced on PC in some areas, which is something we really didn't expect to see given just how well mid-range PC hardware runs the game at 60 FPS at 4K. For example, normal map and shadow detail is slightly pared back on character clothing, so a few of the folds and creases appear less pronounced. While this only affects some of the more intricate details on show, I feel it still takes away a small layer of refinement from the PC version, and it's details like this that would definitely benefit from the increased pixel precision provided by native 4K, something the PS4 Pro can't quite deliver. Indeed, the downgrades here are rather strange given that the core visuals are rendered to the same standard elsewhere on both platforms, with the PC version actually offering up a noticeable boost in image quality due to running at native 4K, whereas a clear upscale blur is present on PS4 Pro. So what's going on with that? Well, on PlayStation 4 Pro, native 4K is off the cards. Instead, SNK are rendering at 1440p, before the console itself upscales up to 4K and outputs that to your TV screen. And I have to say the results are, well, not that great. The issue I have here is that the upscaling does appear quite rough, so there is some visible fuzziness around geometry edges, and the artwork doesn't really get fully resolved to the extent I'd expect for a UHD presentation. And really you can see this clearly with regards to details on characters' clothing and in terms of the shader effects. There's less intricate detail on PS4 Pro resolved, and in terms of the shader effects, well, on PC the extra pixel precision gives the characters more of a CGI style look, which is only possible due to the extra sharpness and clarity on offer, whereas on PS4 Pro the effect is still there, but it is diminished by the upscale blur. And that's a bit of a shame. I do feel that the PS4 Pro 1440p upgrade does provide a better image quality on 4K TVs than, say, playing the game on base hardware at 1080p. But if you've got a 1080p TV or access to one, then I actually feel that playing King of Fighters 14 in 1080p on a full HD screen yields better results than, say, 1440p upscaled to 4K, simply because there's no upscaling. So on that note, the PC version clearly provides the best possible experience for playing on a 4K screen, but just how easy is it to get running at 4K 60 frames per second? And yes, running at a solid 60 FPS is the important part here. This is a fighting game that requires precision per frame timing, and you really don't want to see any slowdown impacting on gameplay whatsoever. Originally I tried the game running on a GTX 1070 and well, that GPU had no problems keeping up. 4K, locked 60 frames per second, easy. And likewise the GTX 1060 didn't bat an eyelid either, delivering a perfectly smooth 60 frames per second experience, exactly what we'd want. So the mid-range and lower high-end Nvidia cards fare well, but what about slightly more entry-level GPUs? Well, in terms of the GTX 970, which is actually pretty close to a 1060 in terms of capabilities, that also delivered a flawless 4K 60 frames per second performance. But in terms of really low-end GPUs such as the GTX 1050, the results aren't so great. In this case, the 1050 only hands in between 20 to 30 frames per second, sometimes dropping down to around half that. It's a complete bust and no use to playing King of Fighters at 4K. However, if you do drop the resolution down to 1080p, then it's possible to claw back enough performance to get 60 frames per second. So I guess if you're running with a standard Full HD screen, then it's not so bad. And I suspect that if you're looking to run King of Fighters 14 on a 1080p screen, then kind of a lower end, lower mid-range GPU should do the job nicely. But for 4K, you're really going to be looking at something with a lot more grunt. Something like the GTX 970 does a very good job, I think. Unfortunately, there's no option to turn off VSync here, so I wasn't able to measure how much headroom was available, only that it was possible to get a 60 FPS lock with some cards, and other cards dropping below. Anyway, overall I think the PC version actually holds up really nicely. While there may not be that much in terms of tweakable settings, I think the overall conversion has been done really well. I didn't notice anything in the way of bugs and glitches, the visuals appear crisp, clear and work well at 4K, and the gameplay experience holds up. Playing with an Xbox One controller, I found the D-pad more than satisfactory to pull off tons of crazy combos and super moves. And I actually found the D-pad on the Xbox One controller to be an improvement over the DualShock 4, which felt a little bit too mushy and kind of prevented me from getting the kind of precision I wanted when pulling off certain combinations. But overall, as it stands, if you're looking for the best way to play King of Fighters 14 on a 4K screen, then the PC version is clearly the way to go. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed our look at King of Fighters 14 on the PC and PS4 Pro, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Oh! Incredible! Player 1 wins! Ooh,